Eternalism for Beginners, Unit 20, Overview Quiz. Welcome to the Unit 20 Overview Quiz. This short quiz will reinforce your understanding of the Gospel and the philosophy of eternalism. You'll answer 6 true or false questions, each followed by a brief explanation. Then we'll conclude with a bonus question, challenging you to think of 2 current-day examples of the globalist agenda. Reality is whatever we say it is, and you will comply. In this exercise, there are 6 true or false questions. Question number 1. The war on reality is only a recent phenomenon emerging in the last few decades. Answer: false. Explanation: the war on reality dates back to the war in heaven, where Lucifer sought to impose his will over others. This battle has continued throughout history, manifesting in various forms of religious, ideological, and personal control. Question number 2. The primacy of consciousness mentality will eventually resort to force because, without truth on its side, it cannot win any other way. Answer: true. Explanation: the primacy of consciousness rejects objective reality and relies on coercion to enforce its version of truth. Since it cannot win through reason or facts, it will eventually resort to force and intimidation. Question number 3. If the primacy of consciousness mentality had no state power behind it, it would still be just as influential and dangerous. Answer: false. Explanation: the primacy of consciousness mentality alone has limited power. It becomes dangerous when backed by the state, which gives it the ability to enforce its ideology through coercion, laws, and societal pressure. Question number 4. When backed by state power, the 3 major versions of the primacy of consciousness, religious, ideological, and personal, can converge to create a catastrophic tyranny against those who uphold objective reality. Answer: true. Explanation: when backed by state power, these forces impose a fabricated version of truth from every possible angle, silencing dissent, suppressing logic, and eliminating any acknowledgement of objective reality. Question number 5. State-enforced compliance with the primacy of consciousness mentality is not just a local or national issue. It is a global assault on the primacy of existence. Answer: true. Explanation: from ideological mandates to medical tyranny, state-enforced compliance with the primacy of consciousness mentality is not confined to any single country. It is part of a larger globalist agenda that seeks to reshape reality by controlling perception and enforcing compliance on a worldwide scale. Question number 6. The primacy of consciousness mentality is mostly about harmless personal beliefs and does not seek to control others. Answer: false. Explanation: the primacy of consciousness is not just personal. It seeks to dominate public discourse and force everyone to conform to its version of truth, even at the expense of facts, logic, and personal freedoms. Building on our discussion of the globalist agenda for total dominance, imposing its will over all mankind with the mantra, "Reality is whatever we say it is, and you will comply," here's a bonus question and challenge. Out of these 8 different forms of tyrannical global control, which one has yet to be implemented? Answer: none. Explanation: all these various forms of tyrannical global control and dominance are currently being implemented to varying degrees of success. Their convergence from every possible angle is truly alarming and represents an unprecedented assault on freedom, reality, and individual autonomy. Pause the video for a moment and try to identify at least 2 real-world examples of these forms of control being enforced in the United States, either currently or in recent years. I have accepted this challenge, and here are the 2 examples that I have identified being enforced in the United States, either currently or in recent years, with the first being an example of woke and state tyranny. Keep in mind, however, that 2 other forms of tyranny lurking in the background, and lending a support to this woke and state tyranny are science and state tyranny, and tech and state tyranny. Let's start with Paul. Paul is a man, he knows it, his biology confirms it, and his longtime neighbor, Peter, sees it too. Paul's identity is grounded in the primacy of existence, facts over feelings, biology over gender. But a few years later, Paul reintroduces himself as Paula, insisting he is a woman. His new identity is grounded in the primacy of consciousness, feelings over facts, gender preference over biology. Peter, who has known Paul his whole life, doesn't buy it. "No, you're not," he declares, refusing to participate in what he sees as a war on reality. He stands firm in the primacy of existence, where a biological man cannot become a biological woman just by declaring it so. If the story ended here, they could agree to disagree and part ways. But this is where the state steps in. Under the banner of transgender rights, the state doesn't just affirm Paula's claim, it enforces it by declaring, yes, she is a woman. Suddenly, Peter is no longer free to speak the truth or reject what he sees as an obvious lie. Instead, he must comply with the state's declaration that Paula is a woman, or face punishment, fines, or even prison time for not respecting her preferred pronouns. But this isn't just about transgender identity. The real issue is far more sinister. This is about the state enforcing a woke ideology, gender over biology, feelings over facts. The government is no longer simply enforcing laws. It's enforcing a fabricated version of truth, the primacy of consciousness mentality imposed through tyrannical force. What's truly at stake here isn't just someone's claim to be a woman, it's the state's tyrannical claim that, regardless of what you think, reality is whatever we say it is, and you will comply. That is the woke, ideological tyranny we face today. A war on reality, sanity, and clarity. Now let's turn to my second example, medical and state tyranny. Once again, keep in mind the other forms of tyranny operating in the background, reinforcing this medical tyranny. Tech and state tyranny, science and state tyranny, and economy and state tyranny. In this case, medical tyranny didn't just impact public health, it had a dramatic and disastrous effect on the economy, especially for small businesses. Our second example is even more shocking, not just for its audacity, but for its global scale. Under the guise of a health crisis, we all witnessed and participated in state-imposed medical tyranny. This wasn't just about mandatory masks, it was about forced vaccinations, social distancing, and the shutdown of small businesses, schools, churches, national parks, and even playgrounds. Let's take masks as the symbol of the entire narrative. The state declared them essential for public safety. Yet it quickly became clear that masks, isolation, and social distancing didn't work as advertised. In fact, they proved to be counterproductive. So why keep up the facade? Because masks weren't just government mandated. They became a moral and social test of goodwill and global citizenship. Regardless of their effectiveness, potential harmful consequences, health risks, or the psychological and educational toll of both mask mandates and school closures, especially on school children. Once again, the real issue was far more sinister than the ineffectiveness of wearing masks. This wasn't about protecting public health, it was about the state enforcing its will over its citizens. The government was no longer simply enforcing laws. It was enforcing a fabricated version of truth, the primacy of consciousness mentality imposed through tyrannical force. What was truly at stake wasn't just whether masks worked, it was the state's tyrannical claim that, regardless of what you think, reality is whatever we say it is, and you will comply. The ultimate absurdity was, without a doubt, the mandatory rule requiring masks when entering and leaving a restaurant, but not when seated at a table. The sheer theatrics of this medical tyranny turned all of us into a laughingstock, the perfect symbol of the primacy of consciousness, waging war against reality, sanity, and clarity of purpose. And yet, we all went on eating our meals as if the absurdity of it all wasn't really happening. But it was, and it was all too real. These were just two examples among the 8 forms of globalist tyranny seeking to control the hearts and minds of mankind. But when we recognize that all 8, along with others not listed here, are converging and conspiring simultaneously to impose the globalist will upon us, the full scale of the threat becomes undeniable. Let these tyrannical and totalitarian words sink in once more. Reality is whatever we say it is, and you will comply. Even here in America, once the bastion of liberty and religious freedom, we are not exempt from this globalist agenda. The danger is real, and it is unfolding before our eyes. It's time to wake up. Thank you for participating. Join us for Unit 21, where we'll continue our exploration of the most important gospel primacy issue of all, the primacy of existence versus the primacy of consciousness. In the meantime, use this bonus question and challenge to identify examples of the various ways these globalists are imposing their primacy of consciousness agenda upon us, without us even noticing it.